Our ancestors' stories were told on these lands, so why not tell it on the land itself? From farmland, plains, foothills, rivers, and creeks, we want to go back to our nomadic sense because that's mirroring what our ancestors were more like.
I've always found that there's a misunderstanding. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of leadership, where people mistake leadership as power when it really is responsibility.
It's so important to talk to your elders. That knowledge that they're trying to pass off to you, that is going to be the knowledge that changes you. Hey, we're not all that different. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Voices of Resilience. We're actually sitting down for our finale for season 2 here. Thank you to everyone that's followed us up to this point. We're actually doing something a little different today. We're sitting down with a really good friend of mine, Guillermo. He's from Calgary with an initiative called Homegrown, and he'll give you more of an introduction of what they're doing down there and how we connect with Voices of Resilience here and with the Nomadic Wildling Media. But we actually met back in the summer here at one of the conferences in Red Deer, one of the film conferences, and we just immediately connected with our mindsets, with our passion for film and integrating other creatives to the same sort of initiative. So we'll jump into all of that a little bit later in the episode here. But the difference is I'm actually not interviewing him today. Guillermo is interviewing me. We've been getting a lot of questions about my own background and stuff, and I know I've shared a little bit about my own experiences with my Métis status, my multicultural status, what got me into filmmaking in the first place, and my two-spirited identity. But Guillermo here is going to help me get everything out on the table for you guys, and I think this is a good way to end off season 2 because we're going to be making some big changes for season 3, one of which is getting back onto the road, which is what this podcast was initially made to be. So we're going back to our roots, and we're going to add a little bit more on top of that too. So I'm really excited to share some of the evolutions with that and how we connect with Guillermo and how we connect with Homegrown. But I'm going to pass everything off to Guillermo here, and he can let you guys know what he's all about.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for letting me
man.
interview you, man. This is a huge honor. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you on the show here, dude. This is for some context, we've actually been kind of double dipping all week here. This is day 3 out of 3 for full filming days. We're filming content for Homegrown and the different initiatives there, and then today we're filming content for both Homegrown and for Voices of Resilience. So.
Yeah, we're definitely making the best of our time here, right? Because you said I'm from Calgary, so it's not a huge commute to get down to Red Deer, but the roads are really crappy right now. It's January 3rd, so it's there's a lot of snow and ice on the ground, so it's a bit of a trek. But it was nice to get as much content as we did out. And it was a lot of fun, man. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Of course. I'm so stoked that you guys were actually able to make it up here. It was good weather right up until the point where we decided to do these filming days.
Of course.
And everything came through with booking the different places and stuff like that. All we were relying on was the weather, and the weather didn't want to cooperate with us at all.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm still freezing from the first day that we shot.
Yeah,
we should have had that at the ending.
Outside all day. Honestly, I think that was the nicest day we could have had out of the 3 days. So I'm thankful that we ended up doing that. But it kicked the crap out of me too. I'm mega tired, mega loopy. I might be a little extra goofier on this episode than the other ones. Sorry, everybody, but that's just who I am.
That's okay. I have the advantage that nobody knows who I am for your audience yet. So this could just be how I am all the time. Yeah.
There you go. Well, on that note, do you want to share a little bit more about what you and Homegrown are about here before we jump into everything?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Homegrown Arts and Media Collective started a year ago as of December 19th, but it really started about 2 or 3 years ago. With this initiative to really want to help others tell stories. And something that has come to light, and after many conversations with folks who are much smarter than I am, the name Homegrown could be a little bit problematic, right? Because who is making these stories? What is homegrown? So we really don't want to make it a problematic title. Homegrown means that these stories are coming from every individual person that makes up our community. And we've been wanting to do that right from the beginning. We've been wanting to be a stage. We don't want to tell stories for people. We want to allow this idea of equity, so people have stewardship over their own stories and can share their stories on our stage. So what we are is really just a stage. It's a place, it's a fire for people to gather around, to tell their stories, to share their perspectives and their journeys, and be able to do that in a way that we can just elevate, So we are a nonprofit organization. We're not a charitable organization. We're a nonprofit for the time being, which means that a lot of our funding comes from grants, comes from project funding, comes from individual donations and stuff like that. And we've seen some really good, we've seen some good successes in that sphere. We've got some great success with grants. We've got some individual donations, and what we do is we provide a stage 2 times a year, one called Inspirations, which is in the spring, which is a storyteller summit in Calgary, where storytellers can come from different walks of life, different practices. So we invite storytellers from journalism, filmmakers, public relations, podcasters to come in and tell their stories. And we have experts in their field come and tell share their experiences and their knowledge with folks that are just starting out in the industry. And it is very much, because I do have ADHD, it is very much tailored to those folks, because there's a lot of things to do at the same time, which is nice, along with the main stage where we have like these speakers and keynotes coming in and telling some amazing stories themselves. Our second event is actually in October, in the fall. It's called the Homegrown Short Film Showcase. And I think in Calgary, at least that's what we're known for, is the showcase. And that is the showcase. It's a film festival for underdogs. So it's folks, our first tagline, and I think our future tagline is going to be, "We regret to inform you," because it's a festival for folks who don't typically get selected for film festivals. And we show those underdog films at our festival. And we've had some, this is the second year we just did it. And we've had some great success with it. And people love it. People love it because it's like their moment in the limelight. It's their moment on stage. Going forward, we have some amazing initiatives happening. We have a mentorship program that's being built as we speak by my partner, both in business and in life. My wife, Caitlin, she is building a mentorship program. And then you and I and the whole team are working on Creative Caravan, which is a mobile workshop teaching studio to go all around Alberta and show people how they can share their stories with some really baseline video and production skills. Yeah,
the connection that you made with the Homegrown Fire goes very heavily into the firekeeping teachings that were taught to me. The fire has always been a gathering point. That's why we have a little fireplace here. That's real. A real fireplace here, as real as we can make it inside of a building.
It's really warm.
You can tell it's warm by the steam that's coming off of it. By the smoke that's coming off of it. But it's a huge gathering point. When you see a fire, it's immediately warmth. It's immediately storytelling. It's more than just survival, right? And when you started sharing about your story, your connection with fire, that's when I knew that something had to be connected between us. Like this wasn't just like a one quick conversation and then see you later, So
no, there was an immediate connection in 2 fronts. Actually, the fire was one of them. It's the first thing. It's actually our logo. We call it Firelight, and it is very much supposed to represent where the first stories were told. It's like this gathering place of fire and people sharing their own stories from their own perspectives. And these stories don't have to be true. The fish could be this big, and we want to open up for people to come and be able to tell their stories. Somebody I was talking to said, "I love what you're building at Homegrown because it's a place where you can just be." And I love that. I love being a place that people can just be. The second part when we connected is actually our nomadic nature. My first company, when I first started in 2013, 2014, was called Nomad Video Projects, MVP. It was based on just me wanting to travel and to tell people stories and to do vlog content from across Canada. And that's such an honor to be able to hear that. And I love what you're doing for Voices of Resilience in that you're allowing folks to tell their stories. You're allowing people to share in a safe place their journeys, which is part of what I've been trying to do since early 2013. So, props to you for getting, this is a second season, is amazing. I've seen some of the episodes and some of these stories are so impactful. So, I mean, the fact that I'm on here, I don't know why I'm on here, to be honest, but thank you so much for hosting me. But I'd like to get right into the interview, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you got?
What do you got?
All right. Yeah, I got a list of questions for you. Hard-hitting questions.
Sounds good, man.
And I'm pretty rusty, so forgive me for having my phone in front of me in case it pops up every once in a while.
You know what?
Very rusty.
Little movie magic secrets here. I actually I wear flowy clothes because I like flowy clothes, but it also helps me hide my little cheat sheet.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it's always good to have something to keep you on track and stuff like that.
I have thick thighs, which allows me to hide my phone really well. No. Well, I guess the first thing I want to know is tell me a little bit about your background. You talked a little bit about your cultural background and how that influences what you do now. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I never grew up on reservation. For that fact, I also didn't grow up very heavily into culture at all until I started looking for it on my own when I was around like my mid-20s, right? So to give a little more background of what exactly I am, I identify as Cree, a Métis, and Chinese and Vietnamese on my mom's side. So my indigenous blood is on my dad's side. My Métis status, everything, that's on him. That being said, like all parts of my culture weren't really taught to us. If anything, we were closer to my mom's side of everything when we started growing up. My dad's side of the family was pretty estranged for the most part. We would only really see them around the holiday season, and that was a rush of like fitting 3 different Christmases with 3 completely different demographics of what our family is in one day, right? So as a kid, it was just a blur of faces. There wasn't really a whole lot of teaching or anything like that. And because of our mixed blood status, I never really felt, and I'm sure it wasn't 100% intentional all of the time, but I never felt really accepted from either sides of my family. Either being too white or not white enough, or this, that, or the other thing. Like we didn't learn our mom's native language growing up. Even my dad and like his siblings, they didn't really know a whole lot about their indigenous culture either. From what I understand, my Métis heritage migrated from out east, from the Red River Nation. Up to northern Alberta here. That was the connection. So the other side of my family, my mom actually escaped from Vietnam after the Vietnam War. So she lived through all of that. And then the moment that the states were pulling out, that's when the communists started taking over from the north. And that's when the war zone hit where my mom was living. So she was dispersed from there from like a young age. I think around like 18 or 19 is when they had to flee, and she fled with a couple of her siblings and her mom and dad. And by the time she got to the shore where they were loading everyone onto the tugboats to get out of Vietnam, she was alone. She was by herself. And so she had no idea where everyone else was, or if they were alive, if they were okay, or anything like that. She was only able to focus on herself. These tugboats were literal tugboats that got people out of that area, and they would, like, you can search up photos of them being loaded up with people, and it's shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. There's even some photos of people hanging off of the side just because there was no space. And the ironic part was, these boats were going out towards a U.S. carrier that was just on the outskirts, that was taking these people in to bring them over to the Philippine Islands, where there were missionaries and refugee camps set up. But in between there, those tugboats were getting raided by pirates. So at the same time, my mom was just worrying about getting away from one war zone. She was now having to worry about being raided by pirates, and she was seeing other tugboats that were having the same thing happen to them, and the men were being shot or thrown into the water. The women and children were being taken. My mom's boat got boated 3 times. All 3 of those times, they thankfully just like took everyone's stuff. All my mom had left on her by the time she got to the boat was a golden watch that her grandpa gave to her. And she would have rather have seen it go missing into the ocean than passed off to, given to a pirate. So she took it off and dropped it into the floorboards. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. I know we're segueing a little bit, but this will go into a little bit more about why I'm doing what I'm doing now. A lot of it is because of my mom. But when they got to, like, my mom was able to get onto the carrier and then get out to a refugee camp. You can still visit that camp today. It's privatized, and it's mostly the only people that like live out there now are people that are trying to get away from society. But you can still go out there and visit, which is crazy. Like I would love to take her out and just like backtrack her whole trail and see what that journey like really was on the ground, right? But when she got out there, this little girl came up to her with her watch and gave it back to her. I guess that little girl saw exactly what happened, and after the pirates left, she was digging around underneath the floorboards and was able to find it for her. And she still has that watch today. That's the only item that she was able to bring, right? So she spent about 1.5 years, 2 years out on that island, and then plopped her in the middle of Alberta to start a new life. And since then, my mom has created a beautiful life for herself. She's had 2 kids and a grandkid now, a lot of fur babies, a lot of fur grandbabies. But she was able to live a full life out here. But that's not without a fair chunk of racism that even I've seen her have to go through, just for not speaking fluent English and for just being different. Right? So I've seen that from a very young age. I was bullied for being Asian, being terrified of walking home some days because I knew that the same set of bullies were going to ambush me on the way home and try to beat the crap out of me just for being different, right? For things that I can't control myself. I can't control the fact that I'm part Asian or that I don't look 100% white. And like at that point too, I was terrified. Like I was already like, I was already terrified of being Asian. I couldn't imagine what it would be like if it came out that I had Indigenous blood in my system too. And we were pretty much taught, without blatantly like throwing it out there to us, that we needed to be as white as possible if we wanted to live a good life, right? That was I'd like to say that's a big reason of why we stayed away from, was to get away from all of that. Like, yeah, so that was rough. It left me with a huge loss of identity for a very long time. I was very lost as a kid. I got into a lot of really sketchy situations by hanging around the wrong people. And it's like, I know now that I was really just looking for a community at that point. So I got lost in that when I was going through high school, and my grades started like really dropping. Around that time too, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, so my schoolwork just completely dropped off. I didn't do anything. I didn't even go to class. My friend group now, the ones that knew me from high school, always joke around that I was still able to pass in the first place. Not only pass, but like I had like spares somehow, even though I did like nothing. Thanks, school system. Yeah. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And I also, I've shared on the podcast before too that I do identify as Two-Spirit. I've come to realize in the last few years that can be a pretty loaded conversation to share with people. Because of all the different things that it means now. And even the term Two-Spirit has been, it was pushed as a blanket statement for a group of people that we couldn't put a box over top of, right? Every every nation has a different word for what a two-spirit person is supposed to be, right? And it usually just comes down to someone doing the roles of a gender that they weren't born into. That's the most basic explanation of it. But I think where it's kind of being altered is that the traditional teachings are what were passed down to me, and that goes above anything of how I choose to identify what my gender is, or who I choose to be with romantically, or anything like that. It comes from a general teaching of just trying to live that balance of holding my masculinity with my femininity, which is something that we all have with us, right? So when I say I'm two-spirit, it's not to say that I'm bisexual or anything like that. It actually has not a whole lot to do with that. It's because of that balance that I'm choosing to have within myself and with all of my different practices that I hold that come externally from me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Right?
Thanks for sharing, man. A lot of this I got emotional there because a lot of this resonates with my story and stories that I've heard so many times over about people who just don't fit or don't feel like they fit or don't feel out of place wherever they are. And it hits so hard. And I'm sorry you went through all that, man. That's some serious stuff.
No, thank you for holding the space. I'm not used to being on the other foot.
Yeah, well, this is your stage. I'm only trying to do it justice. And I mean, the stories you shared are the things that resonate with so many people. And even, if people's stories aren't exactly the same as yours or exactly the same as mine, there are people with different stories, and that's the point of Voices of Resilience, of Homegrown, is the holding the space to be able to tell your story in a way that is meaningful to you and people can listen. Thank you for sharing that. That's powerful stuff.
Thank you, man. I felt like I was yapping a little bit there. I went a little bit off, but I'm glad.
No, as I'm sitting here bawling. Thank you.
Thank you. So the 7 teachings comes down to respect, wisdom, honesty, truth, courage, humility, and love. And those are mirrored by the different animals that collate with those teachings, that are supposed to be like the guardians of those teachings. I won't get into all of them because I want to focus on one specifically. But for instance, like love is connected to the eagle. And there's a reason behind that, and there's a story behind that as well that we can get into. But it's mostly because the eagle is one of the highest flying birds in all of the world, especially in North America. It is the highest flying bird. It can see a perspective of the world that we can't. And in order to truly portray love to another human being, or to even portray love to yourself, you need to see the perspective of that other human being or that other being in front of you in order to fully love them unconditionally. And unfortunately, a lot of us live our lives loving conditionally. And what you were just talking about with holding that space and seeing people eye to eye, hearing their stories without feeling that judgment, that's a form of love, but that also connects to our other teaching, which is humility, which is portrayed by the wolf. And the reason why the wolf is connected to humility, because it was able to put everyone else ahead of himself first. The story goes during a time of famine, when food was very scarce. It was in the middle of winter. The animals all gathered around for the last scraps of food. Creator was in charge of dispersing the food out to make sure who would eat first. Every animal spoke up to give a reason why they should be the ones to eat first. The eagle spoke up because it could see far distances. It could travel for more food. It can spot out more food, but it needs that energy in order to do so. So it needed to eat first. The bear spoke up because it was the strongest animal there. It could protect us, but only if it had fuel in its system to protect them. Each animal went around to give their different reasons, but the wolf stayed silent. So Creator gave the wolf a chance to speak up to why he wasn't speaking up. And the wolf said, he's fine. There's women here, there's children here, and they're sick here. They need to eat first. I'll be okay. And that's why Creator trusted wolf with the humility lesson. Because we can't see other people's universes if we're putting ourselves up on a pedestal, right? The wolf teaches us that in order to hold any of our other sacred teachings to ourselves, we need to first understand that we're not above or below anyone else that we come in contact with. Mm-hmm. Every person that you can talk to has something to share with you that you didn't previously know, and you have something to teach them in return. But only if there's that mutual respect there, right?
Respect, that's such a huge part of it. I come from highly white collar background when it comes to work. I worked in property management industry for a little while, and then I come from film where that alpha male mentality is like, it drives that entire thing, the millionaire mindset and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I've always found that there's a misunderstanding. There's a fundamental misunderstanding of leadership, where people mistake leadership as power when it really is responsibility. Mm-hmm. Like, becoming a leader doesn't mean becoming an alpha doesn't mean that you are now above others, like you said. It's the responsibility that you have a lot of people who are looking up to you to provide for them.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what you're saying is being able to recognize that being a leader of something is actually a lot of responsibility.
It's being of service. And we've forgotten that narrative. I think as a whole, we've forgotten that is the assignment here. I've spent my whole life trying every avenue to not be a political human being. And we've gotten to the point now where it's a duality, right? Like, you can't not pay attention of what's happening in the world. You can't not pay attention of how our democratic system is being altered to something that isn't supposed to be what it is at all. No. Right? So to be silent in this day and age and to not pick a side, then you are picking a side. Yeah. It's that simple. And when I look at the political system, when I look at the democratic system that is supposed to be the savior, like we were told that the narrative that capitalism was the right way to go and democracy was the right way to go. Right. But these are all theaters to something else entirely.
Oh yeah, I could get into this for about 2 hours. Yes, political. But I think going back to your teachings on wisdom and your understanding of wisdom and this idea of a leader trying to open up for other people. I want to know where the idea of Voices of Resilience came from. And does that kind of fit in with that teaching? Are you trying to understand more perspectives? Because I think the key to being able to be a stage for others is to understand as many stories as you can from different perspectives. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe I'm speaking for you, but I mean, maybe that's what you're trying to achieve with Voices of Resilience. Where did the idea come from, or where, and how did it come to be?
I came from a very lost background growing up, and I didn't really start reconnecting to my culture until about my mid-20s. I started connecting to Indigenous culture a lot more than my mom's side. I think that came from, like, we grew up in kind of like a Christian household. We lived in a small town called Torrington, and small town is like this place was known for a museum that had dead gophers, taxidermied gophers in it. It was that small. I think there's one bar in there that doubled as like a motel that I think you could also buy groceries from. Yeah. That sort of thing.
Hair care, tire center.
Insurance.
Insurance.
Buy a gun for the gophers just in case too. But yeah, I remember going to church in that small town very early and kind of understanding that something was weird. And especially the fact that we were churchgoers. When we were there on Sundays, we were of God. Mm-hmm. And outside of that, it didn't matter at all. I'm well, it's something even at a young age, I knew that that we weren't practicing what we were preaching, right? I knew something was up, and I started looking into religion a little bit more. I started reaching out and doing, because I was lost. I wanted to find something to believe in. It felt like when I was in church and looking at other people's families, it just felt like they were so much more confident in themselves because they believed in that, and that's great. That's the silver lining of religion. If it's something that gives you peace and gives you an understanding and makes you calm with the overarching unknowing of everything, then that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we've all had those situations where we've looked up at space and have just been completely paralyzed by the infinite nothingness and like feeling like an ant. And we don't want to feel like that every single day. Like, if religion is what gives that to you and pulls you out of that, then amazing. It didn't do that for me. So I started looking into other religions. Mom came from, she used to be Buddhist before she came out here. So I started looking into Buddhism, and more of that stuff started making sense to me. But again, there was still like that toxic side of like using religion for power. And you see that mirrored in a lot of different religions, right? I looked into Hinduism, and not only that, but like not only the darker sides of history when it comes to religion that was like mirrored, like obviously like through like colonialism, that was hugely pushed by like Catholic Church mentality, right?
Sure.
Conquering mentality, but it was the general practices too, and the beliefs and the stories that started mirroring each other as well. And it wasn't until I started like looking into like indigenous culture and like land-based teachings, where all of that fluff, all of that like putting a middle person between you and God was just like taken out, and it was just like yeah, there's some pretty fantastical stories, like what I just shared with Creator and with the animals, but it's still like grounded into earth, which is what I really appreciated. It felt more tangible. It's something that I could immediately really connect to. And the moment I started really connecting to that, the moment I started like really feeling confident in who I am. I think it's really important, if you're lost, if you weren't told these stories growing up, to like look into who came before you, because that at least gives you a sense of what brought you up to this point, right? That's what the past is all about, is just to learn ways to be better, right? So it was my mid-20s when I started like really reconnecting. I jumped onto a school photography gig for the first time ever, which is like no harm, like no bad blood to school photographers. Like I've met some really amazing people doing it, but the first time I picked up a camera, I told myself I was never going to do it. It was like, I just needed something, and I didn't want to go back to doing a job that didn't require me to have a camera. So I just jumped onto it. But I ended up going to a lot of like really small town like Catholic schools and stuff. And this is when I started like dressing more indigenously as well. Like I started like growing my hair out and like wearing my hair in braids, and like doing my hair every single day was part of ceremony for me. I wasn't scared anymore to wear that on my sleeve. And every school that I ended up going to, I would have a counselor come up to me and first compliment my braids, but secondly, like ask if I could like talk to their indigenous kids and like share my story with them, because every school I went to, there was a demographic of those kids that were getting severely bullied just for wearing like what I was doing, was wearing that on my sleeves, to the point where like there were some stories of kids cutting these children's braids off, or bullying them so hard that they would come home crying to their parents saying that they wanted short hair, and not understanding the cultural significance of being forced to cut your braids. It was heartbreaking. Every school I went to for that whole season, I was actually like doing workshops with those kids and sharing my story, the reason why I grow out my hair. And I've been in contact with those counselors since then, and a few of those children started to grow their hair out again. They just needed that. They needed to hear that story. They needed to see that there was someone older than them that went through all of that, that came out on the other side okay. Shortly after I finished with that season, I just randomly connected to the Friendship Center, and they took me in immediately. I walked in not really knowing what I was going to do next. I had a friend that worked there, that used to work there, that wanted me to jump on for some sort of documentary, trying to get funding for. But then I met a mentor of mine now for the first time in that conference room. And he saw something in me that I didn't see at that time, and he actually gave me a chance. He hosts tons of different men's workshops out in that area, and I've seen such amazing work since then out of those programs. He invited me out to one of the events as just a photographer. I went out there just to do like, my whole intention was just to do like a free job, just to like get my foot in the door. Like he met me with a handshake and then an immediate check. He just immediately trusted me. And since then it's been history. They helped me with the grant for this. They've backed me the entire way. So yeah, shortly after I started working with that center, we got word of the StoryHive grant here, and I was already trying to figure out a way to use media as a way to further my connection. That was what the idea was to start this, was to document my journey back to my culture. Since then, we're 2 seasons strong now. We're just finishing up the 2nd season here. We're waiting for the green light for season 3 to get back on the road, which is amazing. But in those 2 years, I've learned more about myself, about other cultures, about things I couldn't even imagine in that 2 years than the rest of my freaking life. The podcast platform is a beautiful space to just hold that safe space for people just to share their whole life stories with you.
The inspiration sounds like it came from just wanting to listen and experience different perspectives, which is it's super great. Like, I mean, I think we use the term safe space now, and I think like the terms, for me, it's becoming a bit of a buzzword. But I was introduced to a new term called brave space. Mm-hmm. I love that, and we use that in Homegrown quite a bit, is being able to sit in a space where you can be heard, but you're going to be challenged. Like, there's going to be discomfort, and there's going to be fear, and there's going to be growth at the end of that. And so brave space is something that I feel like this podcast is, you know, you're going to hear stories that are not easy to hear, but it's your choice how you want to interpret that story. And I mean, I value that. And I love that a podcast exists that is able to push people's comfort zones. So thank you for that. Thank you.
And that just kind of brought something up, like, to my attention too, is that these stories are they're from all over the spectrum. Like, we've had a doctor on the show. Like, it's everything from like fire stewardship to like acting in the industry as an Indigenous person, to we've had amazing musicians on the show. We're about to have another one on here. Libraries have always been more than just shelves for books. They've been keepers of stories, of knowledge, and of community memory. That's why we are so excited to be able to partner with the Red Deer Public Library to help amplify and preserve our Indigenous voices through the Voices of Resilience podcast. Did you know that RDPL memberships are free to all of City of Red Deer residents? 'Cause I didn't. Your library card connects you to thousands of books, movies, magazines, language tools, games, and so much more. Plus, 24/7 access to a digital library that you can access from anywhere. Swing by any of RDPL's 4 locations or visit rdpl.org to sign up, tap into all of their programs for all ages, and reconnect yourself with the immense power of storytelling. Culture lives where it's shared, and this is just the beginning.
So you brought them in a little bit into the conversation, which I'm really glad you did, because it's a good segue into StoryHive and how they've provided the means to be able to build a foundation. How has that funding been? You know, what's your experience been, and how has that helped build what Voices of Resilience is going to become?
Yeah, it was a crazy like synchronicity of when I started like learning about what StoryHive is doing, and like especially with like the grant that we're on right now for the podcast. Like, I wasn't even like really looking for anything. It popped up on my ED's Facebook while we were working one day, and she just kind of showed it to me, and then it started like, with the beautiful Big Brother algorithm of our phones, the ads started popping up on my phone too. So that's when I started looking into it and realizing that it wasn't like bull hokey. And I had people backing me at that point that were like telling me that like this is something I should at least try to do, right? And if I didn't have those people, I probably would have just shoved it to the side and been like, I'm not the right person for it, right? So yeah, they convinced me to at least apply for it. It was originally supposed to be I was originally supposed to be on the other side of the camera, actually. We were supposed to have another person up here that was going to be like kind of like the co/slash like main host while I took care of all of the production and stuff like that. So like last minute, she ended up having to drop out, and the grant was already like rolling forward and stuff. So I had to like jump in, and I'm really glad that I did. I was terrified at the moment for the first like 6 episodes of like the first season. I was like deathly terrified before even picking Layla up, our main production person. Like she's the one that takes care of everything and makes sure everything is running pretty much.
Go Layla.
Go Layla. Yeah. Shout out to Layla, who's like right over there. Shout out to Layla. Yeah, but to pull it back a little bit, I am extremely grateful for like what StoryHive is able to do for communities. They're giving a chance to sort of smaller communities to have a creative voice and to give some funding, some backing behind those creative voices, right? And if it wasn't for StoryHive, I don't think I would have gotten the podcast up and running the way that it did. And on that point too, I wouldn't have learned so much about myself and other cultures in the last 2 years here, right? They really did help set up a lot of this, from the funding to the community support that they integrate all of us podcasters into. I ended up jumping onto the video podcast grant, which gave a good amount of funding for like startup gear and stuff. A lot of our gear that we use with the show, like especially the camera gear and the lighting gear, was through that grant itself. And then also like they helped mentor us too. So there was actually like a little bit of a training program that we all had to go through to understand like some nitty gritties of what it's like to put like a media platform, like a video media platform like this, not only up on the internet, but like up on TELUS's platform. So it helped us a lot with like the mainstream technical stuff, right? So learned a lot from it, still learning a lot from it. And yeah, I'm excited to fuel season 3 through it as well, and to see how we can like morph the show moving forward, right? So
I love that. I love, that's something that that StoryHive does do, is they care about you throughout the throughout the grants. I've had a few friends who have done it, and they have that pre-mentorship, and then they help you obviously produce it, and then they help distribute it, which is something that is really hard to find from a lot of grants. A lot of grants, they give you the money for the project. If you're worthy, they give you the money for the project, and then you got to figure out everything, right?
Yeah,
which is kind of hard to do if it's your first time doing it. I've met a lot of folks who get all this money. They put a whole lot of time and effort in a grant. They submit it and then they get it, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, now I have this much money. What do I do?" And so it's nice that StoryHive is able to do that.
Yeah, I'd like to compare like StoryHive is like a really good place for people beginning in grant work to like really start diving into it. They definitely help you out along the way, like figuring everything out. It's kind of the difference between Canon and Sony,
Yeah, fair.
Like, I'm a Sony shooter. I've been a Sony shooter for a while, but man, they do not hold your hands, right? So yeah,
they throw you in the deep end for sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
Which is very much what this kind of what the entertainment industry is here's the deep end.
Yep, here's the oven. If you survive it, great. If you don't, then yeah, next person, right?
That's amazing. Yeah. There's so many episodes now that you've produced. There's season 2 coming to a close now. There's just so many stories that you've heard and have had people tell you. Are there any stories, locations, moments in the production of this podcast that really stick out to you, that really resonate with you? Is there something you've learned that you're taking with you that really stick out above other stories?
Yeah, so on a location standpoint, we've been able to film, when we were on the road, we've been able to film in quite a few really cool locations. So we, even as far out as like BC, which was really cool. We got to, I've done previous film programs and have helped like mentor those programs, and those led me around Alberta and BC around the same time that we were filming the podcast too. So it was like 2 birds, 1 stone. Yeah. But I was able to meet a lot of really cool people. And there was this one area where I was just told to come to this person's house to do an interview. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool little house. Their whole deck was the deck itself looked like a redwood cabin. It was gorgeous. And then the interview that you'll see it in season 2 here. But we, instead of these chairs and instead of the normal setup, we were on her deck out in nature, sitting on 2 hammock chairs, just drinking some tea. And it was so calming. And it gave me so many ideas for my own house too. I didn't realize that I needed like century swings in my house, you know? So now I'm like making plans for that because that's 100% who I am. The ADHD went a little off the rocker for me. Like she was used to it. This is her house. She was able to be nice and still for the camera. I was like, I was swinging all over the place. I was spinning around and stuff like that. I think there was a moment where like I got a little too stimmy and we were like laughing about something. I just did a full like 360 or two and then came back and realized that I was on camera, you know?
Yeah, oh, I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah, oopsies. Oh, that's going to be great for composition. But a couple other places too. We were able to film on Two-Spirit Day at a Two-Spirit event that was hosted by the Red Deer Friendship Center last year, in the teepee that they set up on the grounds, like inside the teepee, which was really cool. It was kind of hard to set up. Like it was the first time we've ever like brought camera gear inside of a teepee, but we still made it work. And we like that whole episode was dedicated towards two-spirited identities. So it was kind of a little bit of a panel episode. That was the first time we've had 2 people on the podcast, like 2 interviewees on the podcast. Wow. Which was interesting to navigate with it being such a small space inside of a teepee, right? But we made it work, and the stories came out amazing. The 2 individuals that we had on there were close friends of mine as well. So it felt very natural to have them in their element right after they just had an amazing day facilitating a Two-Spirited event on Two-Spirit Day. And then we got to talk about all of that, right? So as far as experiences go, we've had amazing artists on the show, musicians. Darla Daniels jumped onto the show and shared one of her songs that just came out. That's in season 1 if you guys want to go check it out. We had Dr. Amy Cardinal Christensen come onto the show to share the amazing work that they're doing with the ILI, which is the Indigenous Leadership Initiative. So that initiative is all based around bringing back Indigenous fire stewardship practices to the main light so that we can work alongside our firefighters and other modern fire preventative measures to help the health of our forest. We've had my elder from town here, Corky, jump onto the show to share her perspective of our 7 teachings and her perspective around how women are so connected to water, which is amazing to hear. And the way that she talks is mostly out of comedy. She loves using comedy as medicine. So it's so funny to just be able to sit down with an elder, talk about really intense conversations, and then just remember that we can laugh about it too. And if anything, that laughing helps us heal more than just talking about it, right? So.
Well, you said earlier that you were terrified the first few episodes that you stepped on and you started asking questions. Is there anything as an interviewer that you've learned since then? And what have you employed from being able to have all these conversations with folks?
I've definitely gotten better at yapping, if I haven't already shared that this episode.
Okay, 3 hours in?
Yeah, no, I've definitely gotten better at just talking to people and like being able to pull on certain heartstrings to like really get into those stories. And it's surprising what someone has gone through. So surprising what someone's gone through. You have no idea the shoes that someone is filling until you really start like talking about their life. And that's one of the beautiful things. That's what I love about doing this podcast. Every single person I sit down with, it doesn't matter what avenue of expertise they're in that they're coming onto the show to like share about. When we get into their origin, when we get into their story, it's crazy. It's crazy to learn like the hardships that someone's gone through that has helped lead them into an avenue of being able to help people. Right? So yeah, just really understanding where people come from, that helped put into perspective that like to just like really see someone in their eyes rather than just seeing what they're putting on top of themselves to go out into society with, right? There's so much that we're not sharing with people. But the moment that you start talking and like really asking someone where they're from and, you know, what their childhood was like. There's so many things that you just end up relating to them about. It's like your souls are connecting at that point. It's not just like you're having a normal conversation with someone. It's like at the end of every episode, you leave knowing that you've made like a really genuine connection with someone that you hadn't before.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a cool, surprising thing that came from a lot of this. Along with the fact that like I've learned so much just about myself in the last 2 years of doing this, so much more than I could have done outside of this podcast. It's insane.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It must be such a cool experience to be privy to some of these conversations that are happening, and you're like, wow, this person, you know, and it calls back to having like different communication styles and different, like, you know, your elder, you said, uses comedy a lot, you know, you're privy to a lot of these conversations and a lot of like these communication styles. What has that taught you outside of the podcast? You know, like speaking to all these individuals, how do you take that with you in your everyday, and how do you hope people can take those stories with them after listening to your podcast?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna tie it back to the fire, I guess. That's let me stoke the fire a little bit here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're running out of heat. Hold on. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Get that oxygen flow going.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Commit to the bit.
This is why we need to have fire keepers to keep the fire going.
Ooh, yes.
Anyways,
how do you take it with you? Like the story, the lessons and the stories that you've learned.
Yeah, I feel a little different every time we come out of the studio, every time we finish an episode, especially like the studio has been like, this auditorium has been an amazing space just to hold that energy in. It's very warm in here. It's very welcoming for these conversations. When we were going out on the land, like it was so much more prep, right? So it was a whole journey for myself and for Layla, who's been there pretty much like every episode, like helping out with everything. Like it's more than just like showing up and just like having a casual conversation with someone. There's so much planning that leads up to it, and then the release is having that amazing conversation and like learning so much about another individual and like what they end up wanting, like the snippets of their own flame of knowledge that they end up wanting to pass on to me, right? So when like a couple of the examples that I've given of like Corky's perspective of water connecting to women and Indigenous fire stewardship. None of that stuff I knew going into this, or like before I decided to reach out to these people. And these are things that are like, these are snippets of knowledge and wisdom that I now have with me, that I'm now not only able to share with other people who are interested, but it's shaping how I view the world. It's shaping how I view myself. It's shaping how I just even hold myself every single day. Every single time I come out of the studio or come out of one of these episodes, I'm a little bit different of how I think about everything, right? So you keep doing these, you keep having these genuine conversations. And, you know, that's why our elders are always saying it's so important to talk to your elders. That knowledge that they're trying to pass off to you, that is going to be the knowledge that changes you. Yeah, I'm a lot more confident in who I am now because of the stories that I've been able to sit down in through this podcast.
That's amazing. So, which brings us to kind of the next iteration, the next step of the podcast of where you're going. I mean, you said you found this amazing space, but now you want to open up the space and go back to the roots of traveling, taking inspiration from those experiences that you've had in the first 2 seasons. Where do you want this to go? Where do you want to go from here?
Big picture or little picture?
Let's start little and
little
go big.
Okay, yeah. Little picture. We want to go back to our nomadic sense because that's mirroring closely to what our ancestors were more like. To mirror what we did for season 1, to make it better, is to pull everything into a workstation that we can work out of, live out of, and also film out of. So we can not only share these stories on the land, but we can film it in a way that the land actually helps tell the story and makes the story stronger.
like
right?
that.
So we have some beautiful places in Alberta alone. Like Red Deer has been the center point for so many different things. It's not just like the halfway point between Edmonton and Calgary, which is like perfectly placed. It's like an hour and a half in between.
Yeah.
But when you look at the landscape here, there's everything from farmland, plains, foothills, rivers and creeks, lakes, small and big, and then mountains as well if you want to drive a little bit extra, right? But it's all within like a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
Everything is here for it. Our ancestors' stories were told on these lands, so why not tell it on the land itself? I have no doubt that we'll be using this space again a few times at some point because it's so awesome. And the library here, having the connection with the library in Red Deer has been amazing. The reason why I wanted to reach out to here in the first place is not only because like the auditorium here is gorgeous, but libraries themselves are keepers of stories. And what we're doing here is we're documenting stories. So it just made so much sense. So if we can pull more energy and more people into wanting to be interested in the library, then why not, right? I still want to hold that connection and that partnership very true. But again, we want to move back onto the land. So how do we find that balance, right? The message behind Voices of Resilience is changing. It started as a documentation of my own reconnection back to my Indigenous culture, but it's since evolved into something much bigger than I even comprehended back when I was even coming up with a name, right? So we've had cultures from all sorts of backgrounds around Alberta and BC, and we're getting interest in other places of the world now who want to share their stories of cultural reconnection from Australia, from way up north in the Northwest Territories, from down in the States. We all are native to somewhere on this planet. A lot of our teachings and a lot of our beliefs and even a lot of like our history, the good and bad, is mirrored around the globe. So the long-term evolution of what I want Voices of Resilience to be is a place of cultural knowledge, cultural reconnection, no matter wherever you're from. You can come to this area of the internet and gain knowledge on your own culture, on other people's culture, and you can feel not so alone in this journey of reconnection. That there's a community of other people from around the world that are struggling with their own sense of identity, that are struggling with their own sense of reconnection. And the one thing that we all have in common with each other are those struggles and the teachings that come with them. So
I love it. I love it. What inspired this change or this reconnection aspect? What aspect of your journey kind of inspired this next iteration?
Yeah, I think the moment I started getting interest from other parts of Canada, that's when I started realizing that this might be a little bit bigger than I had anticipated. So that's when something needed to shift with my own mindset of like why I was doing this show. You know, if other people that aren't Indigenous are interested in the show, then obviously it's not just for Indigenous people. I learned this at the beginning of season 1, honestly, when things started to like really branch out, and it's been a beautiful transition.
Yeah.
It's being welcomed in from a lot of different communities that I had no idea would even be interested, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I'm very excited to see, because I'm my parents are from El Salvador. That's where they came from in 1988. I think they arrived actually here in Red Deer, and we lived here for a little while. And I remember going back to El Salvador and being very exposed to that downtown city life of El Salvador, because that's where they were from, is from the city. But I remember one time we traveled out into like kind of the mountainous regions of El Salvador, and I'm not embellishing by any means. We literally took a road that ended at the top of a mountain. Like it was about an hour and a bit drive. But at the top of the mountain, there was a lot of these little communities that still spoke the Indigenous language of El Salvador, Nahuatl. And it was a different world within a driving distance of downtown. Like, I mean, within 3.5 hours, it was a different country. Like, it felt like a different country. And I loved that kind of communal aspect that I saw there. And from my limited experience in visiting and being a guest on reservations, it's that same communal feeling aspect that I caught there. And it's just a unique jive that both this resonance that both communities had, that it's like this community is for everybody. And despite me being an outsider in both communities, there was this warmness that came with it a little bit. Obviously, a little bit of hesitation, like, who is this person? Why is he 3 feet bigger than most of us here? but it was the same warmness, the same kind of like openness of communication that they had, and I love that. And what you're saying, it calls back to that it's the same feeling of community and sharing stories and listening that was in both, that I really love. So I can't wait for this next iteration. To be honest, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the stereotypes that I really like pushing against too. Is that, like, the Indigenous culture and like ceremonies and celebrations are closed off to quote unquote outsiders. That's never been the initial teaching. And the racism, discrimination is on both sides of the fence. But the core teachings are of openness. And if you're wanting to take in the culture and you're wanting to like really understand these different teachings, that's what these powwows, that's what these round dances, all these different ceremonies are for. It's for everybody. It's medicine. It's not supposed to be blocked off to one specific type of people,
absolutely.
right? That is the colonial mindset that has weaseled its way into traditional teachings. Even the way that we like comb through the land, even the way that we steward the land is extremely mirrored. It's passed on all over the world, right? These practices of sustainability, these practices of respecting the land that we pull resources from, of treating everything as a relation rather than just a resource to gain. These are all things that we could absolutely not only benefit from, but are things that are kind of necessary for us to keep us from total annihilation, in my perspective, right? The more we pull resources without the idea of giving back to the planet, the more we're poisoning it.
Yeah.
Right. And our indigenous practices from all over the world are like screaming that at us, right? So
it's the danger of, I guess, a cultural and practical homogenization. It's that danger of, like, if there's one understanding of the way that everything should be, that's a bit dangerous, because then what if that thing collapses?
Exactly.
You don't have different perspectives. You don't have different ideals that could potentially save the planet, yourself, your journey. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. All right, the big question. If you had unlimited resources, unlimited funding, you all of a sudden had a whack load of money in your bank account, what would this podcast look like? Where would you go? What would you do? I mean, obviously Layla would still be here.
Oh yeah. You wouldn't be doing anything else other than this. Yeah, no, it's it's a big question. We ask ourselves a lot when we're doing when we're doing the homegrown stuff too. Honestly, the big picture thing, we would jump straight to the big picture evolution of everything. This would be worldwide. This would be a hub point on the internet that people can go to immediately to learn not only about their culture, but about how their culture relates to other cultures, and have that community based around there too, right? Where you can not only take in the content that we're making, but there's other people that are attached to this crazy web of mutual understanding that are also sharing content based around their understandings of their teachings. And there might be a forum that allows people to communicate back and forth and to plan different events of like cultural awareness events and stuff like that. It's all within the idea that like you're not alone in this journey. You're never alone in this journey, as long as you want to open up your own story and to be a part of it, right? Travel is going to be essential. I'm always going to be traveling. If money wasn't a thing, I'd be gone right now.
You wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't be here. We'd be out somewhere doing the exact same thing. But to take this on the road on like not just like an Albertan standpoint, but all over the world to help strengthen other people's voices and to get them to come out of their shells and to let them know that this is like a brave space to be a catalyst of understanding your own voice and to see where that, like, to help nourish how strong we can make those voices.
Yeah.
The goal has always just been to make enough that I can continue to do this, right? To continue to help people, to tell their stories, to teach people. I want to share more of the nitty gritty behind the scenes of like how we even got to this point in the first place, from set design to camera gear to like planning things out to grant work and stuff like that. I want to help people who have a great idea but are struggling to like start off, right? So, yeah.
Obviously, your big plans. It's going to take some budget, some money, some equipment, some people.
Mm-hmm.
Where can people find you? Where can they see you online? How can they help? If you're if you need it. But yeah, just where can people find you and how can they help, I guess?
You know, this is the thing that I'm always struggling to remember is just like the shout outs and stuff like that.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, honestly, like it's we need a community to back us on everything that we're trying to do with all of this. So if this is something that interests you guys, like, you can find season 1 and then season 2 when it comes out on TELUS STORYHIVE's YouTube channel. Or if you pay for internet or satellite or anything like that through TELUS, you'll also be able to see us streaming on TELUS's platforms on TV as well, which is really cool. So on Optic TV, Stream Plus, and on StoryHive's YouTube channel, just search up Voices of Resilience StoryHive, and you'll have the whole playlist there for you guys. We're planning on porting everything over to Nomadic Wildling Media for not only the podcast, but also we're planning some tutorial videos of like how we work with our gear, what kind of gear that we work with, and some day in the life like vlogging while we're going out to these different locations. So if that stuff's interesting you guys too, give us a follow on YouTube, Nomadic Wildling Media. You can find me as well on Instagram and Facebook. Just type in the Nomadic Wildling. You'll see my little goofy face with that hat. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming through. We're also planning on having the podcast itself on Spotify and Apple Music, wherever you really go for your podcast. So follow us on our social media so you can stay updated with that stuff. And let us know as well in the comments, I guess, like, comment, subscribe. Is that what we still say these days?
Sure.
But comment on anything that's resonated with you guys through the episodes. If you guys have followed up to this point, or even like this episode itself, I'd love to hear that perspective from you guys. And if there's anything that you want us to cover, or if there is anyone that you think would be interesting to have onto the show, please let us know through the comments. We want to evolve this, and the only way that we're going to truly evolve this is getting the insight from you guys that take in all of this content and learn from it, right? So if we can hone this more to you, then that's amazing. But we need your input as well. So I guess this is a little bit of a call to action. We're also going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting work with Guillermo here and with Homegrown to create even more culturally aware content for you guys through their channel, through Homegrown. Yeah, we just got some amazing things that are in the works. I don't know, are we allowed to share a lot of that?
Well, I mean,
stuff?
2026 is going to be a big year.
Yeah.
We're only on day 3.
Yeah.
So a lot of this it's well-planned dreams, but still dreams. So yeah, you go ahead and share what we got going on.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be a secret.
Okay, sweet.
Just blow the doors off this.
Yeah, let's do it. Put the cup down here. So yeah, Guillermo and I are working on some crazy cool things with Homegrown. We're one of which that I'm really excited for is something called the Creative Caravan, which is it's going to be a nomadic film program that we're going to be bringing out to different communities that don't really get that opportunity to not only like engage in this type of media and this type of art style, but also to like have confidence in their own voices and to just learn that like you have the strength to tell your own stories. You don't have to rely on someone else to do it. And everyone has, like we've said earlier in the show, everyone has a story to tell, right? So we want to push that with that program. And I'll pass it off to you to share a little bit more about that as well. And as well as the other initiatives that are coinciding with it, like Unite and the P word.
Go for it. Yeah.
And Project Prometheus. And, just having this be like another avenue of content and mentorship for people who are looking to get into filmmaking or photography or anything that has to do with this type of art style. So
I don't know how much I could add to that. I mean, you did a great job. It's amazing. Homegrown is going through a big growth spurt right now. So last year was very much laying the foundation of what everything would become. So last year we practiced grant writing. We've had some great success in grant writing and grants that have found us worthy of carrying that money and doing something with it. And so last year, 2025, was very much pouring the concrete. It's like getting us ready, our systems, our policies, our everything ready so that we could grow. This year, we're going Alberta-wide. And with your help, we're getting out to these communities that you have worked with directly to add some credibility to what we're trying to do. But we're working, the big thing that overarches everything is called Prometheus. We are bringing fire to the people. But that big project kind of gives a good 30,000, an eagle eye view of what we're doing and the love we're trying to create with Homegrown. So it's a multi-phase directive that guides us basically through our next 5 years. With this first phase being the data gathering phase, which sounds cold and almost clinical, but basically it's a fancy word for having conversations with people, being able to go into these communities and to be able to speak to the knowledge keepers and the people who are there to share the lived realities of the folks in these communities. And that's important to us because we can build all of our programs and policies and everything from our own perspectives. But it seems like a disservice to be able to do that and to make a lot of assumptions based on just research than it is to be able to go into these communities, have these conversations, and build something that is intentionally for them and with them in mind. So Project Unite, which you mentioned, it is an acronym. I'm blanking on what it stands for. I love acronyms, but then I forget as soon as I make them. I forget what they stand for. But Unite is basically that project. It's a big conversation with people who are outside of the big cities in Alberta, and even some of the smaller cities, Red Deer, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Fort Mac. These are all cities that have art in them, but these aren't the only places where art exists. There's art outside of these cities. There's art in Indigenous reserves and settlements and communities that are outside of these major areas. And those are typically communities that are left out of the conversation of what will be impactful for those for artistic communities. So we're going out there and we're going to talk to artists and talk to organizations that support artists and community groups that support artists, and seeing what's out there, how we can support those existing communities, or how we can support directly these artists that are out there doing their thing. And I think that's going to help us kind of create Creative Caravan, which is the next step. It's putting pen to paper and actually putting our money where our mouth is, and saying, okay, we're going to build these programs now with these folks in mind, with the experiences and the things that they have existing and the things that they don't have existing, with that in mind, to collectively put together a program that serves them, right? Because in the end, this isn't for me. In the end, it's for others. So that's basically the big thing. And then it goes on from there. I mean, we have a Sparks mentorship program, which is coming. The first iteration is actually happening in spring of 2026, which is something that my partner, Caitlin, is working on. She's a social worker by trade, but she's an artist at heart. So she's working on that actively, which is going to flow into the Creative Caravan. So people who are taking the Creative Caravan workshops will be able to integrate into the Sparks mentorship program, which is one-on-one mentorship with folks in their practice that will get them to the next stage. And if that is grant writing, if that is how to write a script, how to shoot a video with as little effort as possible. I mean, it's obviously big effort, but with as little equipment and stuff as possible, we're going to be able to guide you through that mentorship program, along with a forum where people can communicate, reach each other. What we want to essentially do is break down these silos that exist of conversation between artists and get more collaboration going. So maybe a person that lives in small town Alberta doesn't know that 20 kilometers down the road, another artist exists that's doing something else and that's really good at sound or something, you know? And then those two folks can get together and do something cool somewhere in the middle and get something going, right? And be able to be a stage also for those folks as well with the Homegrown Short Film Showcase and Inspirations, all places that exist that already have a followership that people can show their process and their finished products. So it all is one big ecosystem. It's all circular, you know, and we've been intentionally trying to build that from 2025.
That's amazing. And honestly, that kind of ties into like how we first like started talking to each other too. We have a lot of the same sort of things like on the go, like just as the core values of what we want to try to accomplish. And that's why we connected the way that we did, right? So with Homegrown, with Project Unite, with the Creative Caravan, if anyone's like interested in that, how can they support you? You
can go to wearehomegrown.ca. It's got a lot of our information. The website's still a little clunky. We're working on it. It's a brand new website built specifically for us with actually the intent to, because we want to make it accessible for everybody. The website actually travels really light. So if you have limited connectivity, it actually adjusts to the bandwidth that you have. So it looks a little clunky, but it's intentionally very streamlined so people get the full experience no matter what kind of connectivity they have. So you can go to wearehomegrown.ca. There's a couple buttons there where you can donate to us. Again, we're not a charity, so there is no, unfortunately, charitable receipts, but know and have peace of mind that when you're donating to us, it is directly to the artists, not in our own pockets, so to speak. We have a YouTube channel that we're starting with you, and Voices of Resilience are meeting like two big titans coming together. So the YouTube channel is called We Are Homegrown. The YouTube series we're starting is called Road to Creative Caravan, because we're very creative here. And it just documents the process of building the van and building the program that will eventually become Creative Caravan. You can follow us on Instagram at weare.homegrown, and you can follow us on TikTok as well. I'm sure We Are Homegrown, I think, is our I don't know TikTok very well. I don't dance well, so I don't go on TikTok often. But you can kind of, anywhere you can find us, it's We Are Homegrown or Homegrown AMC is our tagline. So either one of those. Again, thank you for having me on this platform and for finding me worthy of being able to interview you. I think this was a really awesome experience, and just working with you, man, it's been so like seamless. It's been really, really nice, and really, it's a good vibe.
Thank you for jumping onto the show, man, and also for being comfortable with like taking the reins on this one and like helping me out with just like getting my story out like officially.
Not at all, man. It's been an honor, and thank you for sharing your story. Honestly, I think it's important to realize that a lot of this, like, I mean, we don't know each other. We didn't know each other before the summer.
Yeah.
And to know that we have such a close, like, we have a parallel journey, which is really interesting. And there's others around that have that same journey. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, we're not all that different. Whew. The reason why I cross my legs for most of these is because if I don't, then I end up swinging them.
Whee!
Yeah.
Yeah, these are pretty high chairs.